It's been a long wait, but it's finally here. The brand new Audi A6. Has it been worth the wait? Will there be enough additions to make it new and exciting? Let's take a closer look. For a lot of people, this is the business sedan. So it has to achieve two quite different things. The first is it has to look stylish, it has to look conservative and understated, but the second is that it has to look fast. Why? Well, let's be honest, you're not going to own an A6 unless you want other people to know that you own an A6. So this redesign needs to keep that characteristic sporty look, and if it can, add to it a little bit. Well, I think they've made a very impressive statement right from the start. Look at this. It absolutely says business from the first glance. We have two sensor arrays here, you can see mounted right into the grille. I think they've done a really nice job of the way they've integrated those into the design. Lots of car manufacturers struggle with figuring out how best to put those into the bumper without making them look too obvious. We also have a front camera here, again, that's nice and discreet and fits in with the overall styling. And all of these horizontal lines help break up the front of this visually so we can really get a sense of the styling of the car. Let's take a look slightly higher up and see what happens with the bonnet. Well, we've got some very pronounced design lines here. These nice, discreet, traditional lines flow through into the bonnet, but look at this crease here. Wow, that really cuts in and follows right through to the back of the car. It really suggests motion as it goes along, almost as if wind has sculpted the side of this car. That really helps to give it a feeling of speed, even when it's standing still. Now we can really start to get into some details. So this car is just under 5 meters or 16'2" in length, and that makes it around about 7 millimeters longer than its predecessor. So if you want that visually, that's around about that much. So not particularly noticeable, you could say. The height is also a little larger than its predecessor by 12 millimeters, and that's round about this much in height. So you might think, okay, it doesn't make a lot of difference, but it does change the stature of the car. And remember that design line I talked about coming right across the side, right from the front and right into the back? That helps make sure that the car doesn't look significantly bigger. Talking of significantly bigger, let's look at these wheels. Well, new for the brand new A6, we have up to 21-inch wheels, and that really does make the car look very aggressive on the road. I don't think it's overblown. It's very stylish in conjunction with these very thin tires. You have a very dynamic looking car. Coming around to the back, we really start to get a sense of the proportions. This car is 1.9 meters or 6'2" in width, and that is 12 millimeters wider than its predecessor. So again, visually, that's around about that. So that is the most significant increase in sizing on this car. Really, it doesn't look especially bigger, but I bet you notice that slight addition to space when you actually sit in the back. And as it's a business sedan, that's very important. Now, let's take a look inside and see what they've done with the boot. I use the handle, but one feature which won't come as particularly new shock to anybody is that you now have an underfloor catch where if you swipe your foot, the boot will open. I'm notorious for failing to make these work at motor shows, so I'm going to have a go and see if I can. Well, it's not going to be my lucky day today either, but often with show cars, they're not fully set up for use, so you just have to take my word on that. The boot itself is 530 litres in size. Now, lots of you who are aficionados will know that that number hasn't changed at all from its predecessor, but the way that the space is utilized has been. Audi are very enthusiastic to point out that you can fit 2 full golf bags horizontally in this boot, and that does give you a clear indication of the type of customer they are expecting to be buying this car. Got some nice discreet details in here. These chrome luggage straps are going to keep anything that you want exactly where it's supposed to be. And if we have a look underneath the panel, well, goodness, that's some very nice organization for you. You might notice something sitting there with a gauge on it. and wondering exactly what this is. Well, happy to tell you that the new engines are both, and we'll get more into the engines a little later on, both mild hybrids. That means that you gain the benefit of having electric power as well. So the car can coast without burning any fuel. That's a really nice touch. You can see other than that, the subwoofer's been pushed over to the side. That's a change from usually using the well that would have accommodated a spare tyre, and the tools are all nicely laid out. So nice organisation under there. I don't think most of the owners of this car are going to spend too much time underneath this flap though. So we have a very nice load space that'll take plenty of suitcases or anything else you could want to fit in. Now let's take a look inside. Well, we've been waiting a long time to get this new redesign, so Audi had a lot to achieve in terms of making it look fresh and contemporary and stylish. And at first glance, absolutely hit the nail on the head. Well, almost. Again, piano plaque. I don't think that I'm going to take a look at a single car at this motor show that doesn't feature this surface, and I just don't understand why, but I won't go on about it. It's there, it's a feature, that's how it is. This detailing here, while I feel it works really well on the doors, I'm not a fan of it on top of the dashboard. It reminds me a little bit of Formica kitchen countertop. Now, if you don't know what that is, if you think back to the way people had their kitchens finished back in the 70s or early 80s, it was reminiscent of that, and I don't know why you would want to put that somewhere where the light hits it directly. I just don't think it looks that good, and it's not in keeping with the style of the car. We have leather across the top of the dashboard, not my taste, but very popular with lots of people, and then a ledge which forms the basis for the heating and cooling system. It's okay. I guess it's not particularly saying a great deal of anything, but I think that's the thought process, not least because of what Audi is very, very excited about, and that is their new MMI touch system. Now, if you spring for the most expensive model, which clearly this car is fitted with, that means that you get a 10-inch screen here, an 8.2-inch screen here, and a 12.3-inch screen here. So Audi really want to let you know they are committing to the future in terms of touch. Well, you not only can get haptic feedback through this system, that's where the system talks to you by vibrating back, but it's also kitted out to work acoustically. So it will give you the information you need without needing to look at the displays. And that's very important because there's an awful lot of visual real estate here. The screens have been designed in such a way that they fit in seamlessly with the design, so you don't actually notice the fact that they are separate and independent of the dashboard as a whole. And that's really nice. I'll tell you something that really does impress me about this new system, and that's individualization. You can save up to 7 different drivers' profiles on this car. Well, big deal you might think. I think it is. You can change 400 different parameters of how the car looks and behaves. Now, I don't know if you share a car with anybody. I do, and I can really say the idea of being able to jump in the car, push a button, and have everything change to suit me is very appealing. Not least because along with all of the specializations you can have with the infotainment unit, it's also the way the car drives and handles, and because it's an intelligent system, it learns and it makes navigating through the menus get progressively easier and closer to what it is you want. Audi are very enthusiastic to tell us that their menu system is superior to other people's menu system in that it makes sense. That's a fairly bold claim because an awful lot of these systems are really difficult to navigate their way through. So let's just take a look and see how easy it is. Unfortunately, being a show car, we can't actually access a huge amount of the settings because obviously it's not set up to be able to drive. Although if Jonas can just show you the driver's display in the cockpit here, we can see some of the personalization feedback that I was talking about earlier. I don't know if Martin is the owner of this car, but apparently it's set up for him to use. Trying to find out how easy it is. There we go. It's pretty straightforward in order to be able to start communicating with the car. Now, the touchscreen here is really very responsive, as you would expect. There's no lag at all, and it's pretty easy to get to where you want to get to. I'm almost certain you can't pick it up on this microphone, but there is a discrete click every time you select anything, which gives you the reassurance to know that you've actually selected something. That's great for when you're driving. Again, you don't have to look at the screen in order to be able to know what's happening. Well, overall, I would say that the infotainment system is delivered very nicely. It's phenomenally complicated, but it does do a good job of managing to give you the information you need without needing to feel overwhelmed. With 400 different customizations, you can certainly find a lot to play with, but it doesn't really irritate the first time you use it. It's actually quite intuitive and straightforward, and it looks really good. I don't know if you're a big fan of the massive screens in Teslas, but for me this is a much better way to go, having more screens rather than one larger screen, and then you can interact with things separately without needing to confuse the information that you need coming in. So slightly further down we will find the automatic gear shift. Now, whether or not you get one of the two available engines, and that's either a petrol or a diesel, you are going to be getting an automatic gearbox. The diesel comes with an 8-speed DSG. The petrol comes with a 7-speed S-tronic. So I assume they're going to deliver a fairly similar performance. Apparently their fuel consumption is relatively comparable. Obviously, we're not going to get to find out the full benefit of the setup until we get to give the car a drive, but it's certainly making me look forward to that. Again, we have this wood effect throughout the center console. I'm not a massive fan. I think it could have been a little bit more discreet, but that's my taste. Chrome effect right throughout here, and then if we have a look in the center, we can see we have inductive charging. And thank you very much for making that pad a decent size that you can actually fit a modern phone on it. Lots of them are too small. 2 USB ports, that makes 4 in total, including the 2 in the back. A SIM card slot for the infotainment system, and an SD card slot. So really everything you could reasonably want to be able to access in the front. Plenty of room, plenty of space. Driving position, really comfortable. I must apologize for my appearance. It's always very hot at these events and no air conditioning in the car, so that's why I look as if I've been sitting in a swamp. Now, the seat has many adjustments as well, and that means if it's not comfortable for you the first time you sit in it, you're bound to be able to find something that you like. This is a little low for me at the moment, but you can see again acres of headroom. The front of this car has an absolute abundance of space, so I can get myself into exactly the position that I want to be in. Because of the way that the bonnet tapers off at the front, it is difficult getting a sense as a driver of the length of this car straight off the bat from the moment that you sit in it. But because you have cameras all around it, that's really not going to be a problem for you. So overall, I think the styling works. It's clean, it's sophisticated. For me, some of the details could be a little bit better, but Audi's a driver's car, and everything about this car is telling me to drive it. This is a business sedan, so the experience of sitting in the back is absolutely crucial. And I'm happy to tell you, it's really rather nice back here. Let's have a look at this door. We have this nice wood effect styling detail underneath, brushed chrome for both the handle and the door opening catch. Nice, subtle, discreet, not overstated. Well, I'm still a bit disappointed that we couldn't have had something a little bit more creative than the leather finish, but lots of people like that, so if that's your style, then you're going to be more than happy. Not sure they couldn't have done something slightly better and more convincing with these seat backs. Although these net backs are very practical, they don't really spell out luxury or high class to me, and I think that's something that I really want to see in this car. The passenger's experience of being back here is very nice. We have 2 USB charging points and a 12-volt adapter as well, so plenty of charging options for you while you're out on business. Unfortunately, the system isn't on currently, so I can't access any of the controls back here, but we have 2 independent heating and cooling units. And let's talk about the seats. Well, they are really comfortable, and I'm not just saying that, they really are. They're firm but supportive, and they hold you very nicely indeed. I think this car is really designed for 2 in the back with real comfort, but you have plenty of space in the middle here, so if you do need to fit a third person in, they're absolutely going to be able to. Talking of space, look at this. I'm 5'10" in height, or 178 centimeters, so I don't have the biggest legs in the world. But even if I was Jonas, who is significantly bigger, I'm sure you can agree there is plenty of space for me back here. And head height, well, there's not tons, but there is more than enough. I would say you'd be fine in this car up until you start getting over sort of 6'2". I've got around about an inch spare at my head, but I do have a particularly long torso. So I think it's going to be more than sufficient for most people. It's very difficult to make the styling look exactly the way you want without dropping off this roofline, and that always creates a problem for backseat passengers. And I think they've got the compromise in this car pretty great, actually. It looks stunning, and I still have enough space in the back, so I can't really complain. So here we have another interior for you to take a look at. Styling in this one very similar to the other, but obviously we have a lighter finish. So if you are the kind of person who puts marks on your car, this is not the one to go for. In other respects, the styling is very similar. We also have the full leather seats. We also have the wood trim on the front, but it's still the same great car underneath. So here we have the V6 TDI. That is a 3-litre engine. It produces 286 horsepower, and as I mentioned when I had a look inside, I can't say that because of the edit, sorry. So this is a 3-litre TDI producing 286 horsepower, twinned with the 8-speed Tiptronic gearbox. You can also have a 3-litre TFSI that produces 240 horsepower, and that is twinned with a 7-speed Tiptronic. Both of those engines are mild hybrids, and I think they look very nice indeed. Both of the engines feature start-stop technology. What's new for this model is the way that that interacts. If you have a look just here, you can see the front camera, and what's new is that the car automatically will start itself again when it sees the car in front of it start moving. So hopefully those minor niggles that we all had about start-stop technology, meaning that we have to wait for the engine to kick in, you should not even notice that in this car. We'll just have to wait to give it a go to find out how well it works. So that brings us to the end of our preview of the world premiere of the Audi A6. What do you think about it? Well, it's a very, very popular car. So as with the E-Class redesign, a lot of people are very anxious to see what's going to be different about the car. I think they've done a really nice job with the styling. The interior is nice too. I personally would have preferred to have seen a little bit more discreet. I'm not in love with the wood trim, but again, that's my taste. In all other respects, I think it looks great. I really like the way the new infotainment system is integrated into the design of the car. The engines with the mild hybrid are very exciting, and I think the gearboxes are going to deliver a lot. We knew for this model also have all-wheel steering, which is really going to change the way the car handles and performs, and I can't wait to give that a go. If we haven't mentioned any of the details, it's because at all motor shows, it's very difficult getting the information you need until about 3 seconds before you need it. So if there's anything in particular about this car that I haven't mentioned, then please put it in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching, and we hope we'll see you again soon.